There we go. Hi, hello, and welcome to one more session of Smartlead's Office Hours. My name is Akash, your customer success manager here at Smartlead. For those of you all who've been here, you know the drill. Before we start the session, we always want to start with the audience. So click on the chat icon at the center bottom of your screen and drop on the comments where you're from, the temperature in your city, and also let us know if you're an agency, a freelancer, or a part of a SaaS company. Again, chat at the center bottom. Keep dropping your comments. The first comments, the first comment gets a free smart server. Come on, let's do it. There we go. Atlanta,
We're,
Texas, SaaS company, Miami, London, baby. Feels like minus 10. Ontario, Canada, global audience as always. Love it. Keep it coming. We also have a couple of announcements to make. We'll also have some polls coming in to understand the audience better. But about today's session, the real reason why we're here. Outbound isn't broken, but most people are building it the wrong way. So today, our guest, Christian, is going to break down what actually works in 2025 with simple, practical steps that helps team get pipeline moving fast, even if they are starting completely cold. He's going to share a battle-tested practical framework for building a modern outbound engine. Whether you're launching your first outbound motion or if you're fixing one that's stalled, you'll get a repeatable blueprint that is actually going to work, even in tougher markets. And about the guest, Christine Oland is the founder of RevGen Labs, the force behind the Tuesday Triggers community, and a founding member of RevReply. He's helped build high-performing outbound systems across industries, and his strengths lies in teaching practical, testable frameworks for teams starting from zero. So expect real examples, no fluffs, and tactics that actually ship. Christian, over to you, sir. A quick round of introduction, and the floor is yours.
hey, what's up, y'all? Thank you so much for having me on. I'm usually in the other side of this on my Tuesday Triggers podcast or chatting with other people. So thanks for having me on. It's really weird to be the person talking about myself today. For those of you that don't know me, I have been in the space for a long time. I was an early Apollo consultant. A couple years ago, I split out and built my own agency, RevGen Labs, and my own SaaS tool called RevReply. Our agency's been around for about 3 years. About 4 months ago, we split the tools in half. So my founders have taken the SaaS tool, and I've taken the agency to continue forward. RevReply is still a great tool. We can chat about it at some point. It plugs in with Smartlead. And so I focus on building or managing our probably 20 to 30 clients at any given time. We consider ourselves a very bespoke and white glove agency. So we do a lot of different things for a lot of different people. And I'll kind of spend some of today talking about how I see the space in the coming year. Because unless you've been living under a rock or you've got some magical system, things are getting significantly harder day by day. And I remember when, like Smartlead was just like, it was literally like a couple hundred users. I remember I had V on my Tuesday Triggers podcast last week, and I was talking about how I had some lead magnet he sent me in like 2022 of like how to set up your domains for deliverability. And it was like, you can send 100 emails per mailbox and all of this crazy stuff that, just doesn't exist anymore. So, the space is getting harder. That just means that we need to adapt more. Assumingly, this is going to get more difficult forever, right? And always what it's going to happen is you just have to build a better mousetrap, really, right? You need to be smarter with what you're doing. Need to be more tactical. And so if you can do some of these things, maybe it will add some success, or maybe it will just incrementally improve what you guys are currently doing right now, because right now, it's a house of cards, and one card out of place, and the whole thing comes tumbling, right? Realistically, it kind of feels like death by a thousand paper cuts. Or in reverse, if you can do things, right? Like if you can just do these little additional things to get incremental more performance out of it, that will be the determination between success or failure. And so that's it for me. I don't know if there's anything. Obviously, I can start chatting wherever, but that I guess is my intro. So
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this question. And the floor is yours. We can start with whatever you want to talk about. And we'll also have some questions coming through. So, folks, drop your questions on the chat. I'll pick them up for you. And we also have a Q&A at the end of the session. So, stay tuned.
cool. So I can't tell if it's a mix. Like again, actually, it would be awesome if people can just say if they're an agency or if they're an IC, like individual contributor in some way, and maybe their skill level as easy, medium, or hard. I would love to see some of those come in so I can kind of tailor this to everyone's approach.
There we
Cool.
go.
So some of this is going to be kind of a refresh in many ways, right?
Right.
Um, But again, back to the beginning, my early days with Apollo, when we were plugging into Apollo, it was like you'd plug a mailbox in and you'd send 1,000 emails a day. Obviously, those days are gone and things are changing. When we speak with our clients, we generally say, hey, look, if we're going to come in and crack the code with cold email, we need to do three things really, really well. One is deliverability.
Hmm.
Two is targeting and messaging.
Right.
And three is response handling. And if we can do those three things well, we can be successful. Now, again, it's a collaborative effort, but we need to look at how we're going to do that. So, on the deliverability front, obviously there's constantly new technology coming out. In the last month, we've seen lots of big changes in the deliverability space. You guys have adapted to this really, really well, right? You guys were probably the first people to come out with smart senders as
Yeah.
something that you could layer on top of your deliverability to improve it. But realistically, in the coming year, you're going to need the big three, right? Need SMTP. And so we have all of our own infra, right? So we sell our own infra as well to people because we started looking at this as like, look, this isn't a one size fits with our SMTP to Barracuda and Mimecast addresses or inboxes. And so when we send all of our emails, we're segmenting them based on our infrastructure for the best deliverability. Again, what we used to do is the kind of standard, right? 10 domains and 30 mailboxes.
Boxes.
Realistically, for most of our clients now, we're rolling out something like 200 Google inboxes, 500 Outlook inboxes, another 300 SMTP, and we're doing really low volume sending.
Right.
So that's for us. Now, that's not accessible to everyone, especially as an IC. But if you are an IC and you're trying to run this up the flagpole of your company, because like I've been there before, like share this video, share whatever. But like if you don't spread it as wide as you can and diversify as much as you can in 2026, you are going to have a tough time. Now, I say that, and I say everything, take everything here with a grain of salt, because what I say is not the end all be all. I know some people that do phenomenal with, different mailbox providers, and there's a million of them. Most of them are relatively the same, right? Most Google infra comes from a couple of different sources, which is oftentimes either panels or
Hmm.
resellers. Now, panels have gotten blown up recently. Most people have kind of seen some of the posts about that. If you follow like Taylor Heron, he put like an explainer out there. And so like resellers away or just buying Google Direct, which is a tough pill to swallow because of how expensive it can be. Outlook is the same type of stuff. So again, most of these providers are coming from the same source. SMTP, there are differences in that. There's a couple that I like. Winner is one, Winner SMTP. Again, if someone pings me after this, I can probably introduce them, but it's very private. Bare Metal Email is another one that's very private. So you kind of have to go through, meeting them and confirming with them before you set up with them because SMTP can oftentimes be tainted, like, if bad actors come on and start using SMTP
Hmm.
with an individual SMTP provider, they can put their whole SMTP pool at risk.
True.
So again, some of these are more private, but again, ultimate thing is, obviously we need to do MDMI sending, multi-domain, multi-inbox sending, and the wider you can spread it and the more you can diversify, the better. And then be very thoughtful about the testing that you're doing to set up and understand your bounce rates, deliverability rates, etc. For most of our mailboxes, we're only sending, excuse me. So Shrey said,
10 to 15. Christine, we can't hear you yet. I think.
whoa, I just hit the mute button.
Right.
Sorry about that. So Shrey, yes, what you're saying is right. But if you can go lower, right? The more that you can just really bring down the volume and really test, you just have to do it. Now, again, testing right now and having controls in your tests, we're running them every day and it's hard to find patterns sometimes. Sometimes it's a single individual word that's setting off things,
Hmm.
especially with Microsoft. This is just what we see, but oftentimes stuff just like it almost like doesn't get delivered, right? And you, as someone, Dean, my buddy Dean Fiacco from Scale Mail, he basically said it like this. He said, it's like Hunger Games for your sequences. Like you have to figure out which sequence works, and then other ones will just go like have like a 0.1 reply rate. And then you'll change up the verbiage a little bit, and all of a sudden you'll have 2 or 3% reply rate. So, anyways, deliverability, go really wide, diversify your sending, diversify all of your infra. That's a big key point, right?
Understood.
Now, how would you pick up on these things? Again, as an individual contributor, it's hard to find these things. My advice to anyone on here is get involved in communities, right? I started my community Tuesday Triggers, which anyone can DM me on LinkedIn and we'll add you to the community, right at the same time as Smartlead started theirs. And that's been a huge piece of my success is I started this community and I got involved and I started chatting and I started asking questions. And I don't think I would be where I was today if it wasn't for Jesse Willette's community, Vibov being like literally everywhere, and then starting my own community. Those were probably three of the biggest keys to my success because we were always geeking out about it. We finally had a place where we could all go ask these questions. Prior to that, when I was working with Apollo, I was just like, it was just me. I was just like trying to figure it out by testing and failing. Now, if you're in one of these communities, you can go ask, hey, are you guys seeing this? Are you guys seeing this? Is this happening to you guys too? Like I'm pulling my hair out, my hair's on fire, like what's going on? And so that would be a big takeaway that's wasn't in like what I plan to talk about, but like get involved in communities. The community for Smartlead is incredibly welcoming on all of the channels that they have different communities in helping people figure this stuff out, right? In providing that education in that community. So
Absolutely.
anyways, yes, yeah, and you're a big part of that. So thank you. And I'll get off my weird diatribe about communities, but like get involved, right? So anyways, back to what we were talking about. Deliverability. That's one key part, right?
Right.
Targeting and messaging is another key part. So for us, when we're working with clients, we talk about the four different types of messaging that we do. So we do evergreen, incentive, trigger, and AI. So evergreen, incentive, trigger, and AI, really simply put, evergreen is our testing phase, right? So
Right.
with most of our clients, we test 30 sequences in 30 days. And we are really trying to figure out like what might get someone to tick. Like, this title with this type of messaging, this title with this type of messaging. We're basically checking off the boxes, right? Test fast, fail fast, learn fast, right? So that's with our evergreen. Once we figure that out, we can apply those learnings to our next ones, which are incentive, trigger, and AI.
Right.
So incentive campaigns, what are those? Offering value before asking for value, right?
Right.
So the idea of a lead magnet, right? That's an incentive. Hey, we just cracked the code on this thing. Can I share it with you? Hey, we just built a framework to do this amazing stuff. Can I give it to you? Right?
Brilliant.
Or there's tangible incentives. Literally, I just had a meeting with the North American director of sales with NVIDIA. He's got like hundreds of people, if not thousands of people underneath him. And I asked him if he liked like pepperoni or cheese pizza, right? Like
Right.
I said, like let me buy you lunch, like let me talk your ear off for 15 minutes because I think it will be a worthwhile call, and I'll build you something on the call, right?
Right.
So incentives. These are going to be a big one in 2026, and people don't like to hear about this. Say, oh, like that's not like this insane clay workflow that notices that their birthday was like 3 months ago, so they're probably like wishing they had a present right about now, and you're hitting them up at the time they just want a present. It's like not like that. It is literally relationship building, and it stands out from the noise because one thing that I kind of firmly will stand on forever is that like email can also be fun. Like it should be fun. Like some of my favorite emails or the favorite emails I've ever gotten are like irreverent, have nothing to do with what they're selling me, and they just like cracked me up. Like I just got like
Right.
that smile on my face because it was such a silly email. Like Jordan Crawford's great at this. He talks about it a lot, or at least he used to. But I've always loved like Jordan's sense of humor. Um, or like there's this guy, Stu Heinecke. He came out with this book maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago. It's called How to Get a Meeting with Anyone. And the guy started this idea of contact marketing. He would send these big cartoons like that were this big and he would mail them to people. Like you
Right.
cannot not get a response because it's so silly. And email can be the same way, right? Like you can talk about things that are topical. You can talk about Stranger Things 5 right now if you want, like whatever, because some people are so sick of email, right? They're getting what we call email blindness. So
Right.
they're just going in every morning and they just delete everything. And that was like a really common thread in advertising, which is where I come from in the late 2010s, which
Hmm.
was banner blindness, right? Like I think everyone here remembers when there was banner ads all over everything, right? Like every website you went to had banner ads everywhere. And then they just quit working. And I worked in advertising and we sold banner ads and retargeting ads and they quit working because no one sees them because they just literally shut out that part of their brain. Same thing's happening with cold email. So standing out from the noise is going to be important in 2026. You don't always have to hit the person with the perfect pain point. If you can get in and build a relationship because you're coming willing to share value in some way, shape, or form, I think that's a concept that is often overlooked right now. And so I'm a firm believer in that, right? Have fun
Right.
with it, bring value, right? Triggers and AI, everyone knows triggers and AI, right? Triggers are things that you need to find for yourself. So for us, we use like one data source that does a lot of new enroll data. We get like 500,000 records a month
Hmm.
from a company called The Swarm. And that's like one of our data sources that for main triggers. And we use a lot of other AI for what we call like one line or two line emails that basically say like, hey, saw this thing, right? Saw this trigger.
Hmm.
If you we could help you do more of it, trigger would be interesting, right? Or if we could make your life easier by streamlining that, would it make sense for a quick chat, right? Like a really short, like one framework we have is like the one line, two line, and three line, right? So
Right.
first email is one line, right? One sentence. Second email, we elaborate a little bit more, right? But it's kind of saying the same thing. Third
Yep.
one, we elaborate even more, right? And so we're just giving them a little bit more. Like if my first one line didn't get you, like here's a little bit more, right?
Yep.
And so that's what we do with triggers and AI. And then the last piece of this puzzle here is response management. So speed to lead is critical. And if it so there was a statistic a while back, and it was if it takes you longer than 30 minutes to get back to an interested prospect, your chance of booking a meeting goes down 900%. And remind your sales team that. Or if you're an IC, remind yourself that. Those times when you get an email and you go like, oh, I'm just going to go have lunch. No, go get back to that person and then have your lunch because speed to lead is critical. Now, Smartlead's got some features, right? You've always had like subsequences and ways that you can handle that. And then there's also like again, I use RevReply, right? So that's the SaaS tool that I had worked on with my co-founders. It's now run by my former co-founders, Ramsey Al-Ramahi, who was the 14th hire at Apollo. He was their global head of sales, so he's phenomenal. And then Jay Wu, who was the CTO of a $500 million company called Office Ally. And so they've built RevReply, which is an amazing product right now. It plugs into HeyReach, it plugs into Smartlead, plugs into a lot of different things, which is comes back to this point that you need to be omnipresent right now,
Right.
right? And I had V on last week. I talk with V pretty frequently, and man, I mean, he's just brilliant, and I love chatting with him. And you know how awesome he is. And you guys have done a great job of getting ahead of that, right? Like um, I think that like so smart prospects is a great move. You guys are really democratizing data. That will be huge because data is going to be one of those things where that like infra becomes too expensive or data becomes too
Too
expensive
expensive.
for individual contributors or agencies. And that's going to be the thing that kills a lot of these. And so again, like smart prospects is kind of democratizing that in a way that's fairly that's like a really reasonable way to get lots of data. And then smart agents is a way to connect a lot of things. So you guys will have some native HeyReach stuff rolling out and like all of these other things to connect things. So we use RevReply. RevReply, it's basically as responses come in, you train it on on like the company or your company, your calendar. It does like it's crazy now at this point. It does everything. And it emulates an SDR for your inbox, which is really cool. And it plugs in really nicely with Smartlead. And I love Ramsey and Jay, and they're great guys, and I think they're going to do really, really well with that product because they're looking at the things through the same lens. But speed
Right.
to lead is critical. That's what I need to say here. And for us, we also have warm callers. So again, we've got, 20 clients at any given time. And as positives come in, Rev
Hmm.
replies responding and following up and having that conversation to try and get a meeting booked or do whatever needs to be done. And then we also have a team of cold callers or warm callers in this case that pick up and try and lock down the meeting.
Right.
And I think that that's another critical piece if you've got it in you, right? Is we are seeing a huge rise in cold calling. And so for all of our clients, almost all of them now, like for almost all of my sales calls, I'm pushing both email and cold calling because we are seeing a huge resurgence in cold calling.
Right.
And there's a lot of great tools out there. A lot of ours is fairly bare bones setup. We use, for example, we use Trellis as our dialer. They're a YC company from a couple years ago.
Hmm.
But then we use this other data source, Trestle. And so we've got our big, waterfall. We're using Lead Magic as one of our main data sources, and we're using a whole bunch of other things to enrich for phone numbers. Um, and then we actually use Trestle to like say the likelihood that they will connect or pick up. And so for our team, our connect rate across the board is like anywhere from 10 to 20%. And 20% for most companies is unheard of. If they hire an SDR and the SDR goes and pounds the phone for a day and, like makes 100 calls, they basically get like two or three people to pick up and basically get told to F off like, like three times, which is pretty demoralizing, right? So,
Yep.
again, coming back to building a better mousetrap, you just need to be omnipresent. So if you can do the sequencing and you can do cold calling and warm calling, that's better. And then obviously plug in tools like HeyReach to do threaded messaging and threaded sequences. Every little thing is incrementally improving what you might be able to, like if you had a 90% chance, maybe it's 91 and 92 and 93, but you need to stack those things to start to get better performance.
Right. And Christine, what was the name of the dialer again?
The what? The huh?
The dialer you're using?
Oh, Trellis.
Yes.
And Trellis is pretty bare bones, but if you go, well, I don't want to say if that sounds bad. Ajinkya, who started Trellis, is the man. And
Right.
so if you end up connecting with them or need someone to connect, like go for it. But just tell him Christian from RevGen Labs sent you. He's just such an awesome dude. And it's one of those things where it's like the early days of Smartlead where, and still to this day with Smartlead, but like where it was like you had a direct line and you were requesting features and they would be built the next day. And so he's great, man.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah. And so coming back to that, I think that that probably covers a lot of the things that I would touch on, right? This next year, spam filters within ESPs are going to get rigorous. That is going to be the silent killer. That is going to be the hardest thing to diagnose. And I think that's going to be like the toughest thing in the coming year, realistically. Two is the banner or the email blindness, right?
Right.
How do we stand out from the noise? Because again, the perfect framework is fine, but like even in my own outreach, how do I differentiate RevGen Labs from every person else out here that's an agency now? It's impossible. People come on and they say, "Look, I get 50 of these a day. I grabbed yours because, or I connected with you because yours stood out." And so saying there's a couple different ways you can do that, but what, a lot of people are doing right now is racing to the bottom, which is like, we'll give you everything for free for 19 months and only pay on the 20th month if you're like really, really happy. And like, it's just not, it's going to be a race to the bottom there. So stand out, like do something different, like kind of break up how your copy works. Try things that you never thought were possible. My third piece is get involved with community, right? Um, Fourth thing is like I'd say diversify your channels, right? So again, if you can use all of the new features in Smartlead where you're tying in HeyReach and all these other things, every little thing helps. Again, it is stacking 1% upon 1% upon 1% to ideally get you there. So that's all I had for today. Hopefully that was thoughtful. If anyone has any questions, I'm all ears.
Absolutely. That was gold, Christine. Thank you so much for that. And picking a few questions from the chat for you. I think the first question is from Lucy. If we are IC with limited bandwidth, do you recommend we outsource for best impact? We have a lot of GTM campaigns, but we're struggling with results because we aren't iterating.
Yeah, that's a tough position to be in, Lucy. I think that, and so I'll give you an anecdote. I remember right when Smartlead was starting, and I was still an IC. I was a sales director at an ad tech company. By the way, is my connection okay?
Yep, I can hear you
Okay,
clearly.
all right. Just making sure. So I was an IC at an ad tech company. I was a very tenured sales director, and I was explaining to them, "Hey, our deliverability is shot." And man, my VP of sales, I was telling him like, "Dude, this isn't working because everyone's deliverability is tanked." And I was like, "I need to get 10 domains and set up these 30 inboxes, and like, you need to give me the green light." And he came back after like a week of this. And he goes, "How about this?" He goes like, "I'll give you one more domain and three more mailboxes. And is that like, are you willing to hang your job on that? Are you willing to put your career on the line for that?" And that was like the day I had resigned myself to know like I'm done working here, right?
Right.
Because it was such a crazy thing. If you need to run it up a flagpole, maybe have them watch something like this. And yes, you probably need to speak with some sort of outside help, right? Because they need to hear it from someone else. If they're not iterating fast enough or you're not performing and you're having trouble doing it yourself, you need to bring in additional backup. And if it's not possible, hopefully that person will also tell you. We have come in and I've worked with companies before where I said, "Look, I'm just going to be frank with you. I don't know that this is going to be ROI positive for you. I don't know that if unless you guys are willing to run a lot of incentive campaigns or whatever, that like you guys have something here. Like if you're going after CISOs of Fortune 500 companies, like we might get a meeting or two a month for you. Like these people hate emails and they're not responsive and they hate everything about it. And so just FYI, and your guys' product, quite frankly, doesn't stand out enough, right? Like everyone harps on like go listen to Alex Hormozy's 100 or go read his $100 million offers books. Like you need to have a good offer, right? Even the best incentives in the world, which again, I had a client that used to give out a $500 bottle of whiskey for every time someone took a call. Even that won't necessarily mean that you'll close it. You might get people on the call, but you're not going to maybe still close them. So if you guys are struggling, I would suggest again, finding an agency that is, got a good reputation and trying to go figure out a model that works for you. Now, there's a whole spectrum of models, right? We ourselves, we work on a retainer because exactly that. We know that we're going to come in and build, a system, and we're going to test rigorously and give you those outcomes. There are, you could go with anything, right? Nick from Leadbird is pretty low pay per meeting type of thing, versus more bespoke agencies like ours that's going to go and try and build a massive system. I mean, again, we have clients now that are spending six figures a month with us and have a whole sales team built out, right? So it really depends on what you need. But yes, that's a tough spot to be in, Lucy. I commiserate with you. But I would say, yeah, you probably need to bring in more firepower, and you need to draw attention to this set. There's all of these silent killers. There are so many traps in the path that if you're not a whiz in this space, you're going to fall right into them, and they can do damage that will last longer than just a day or a week or whatever. So it's hard to catch them. By the time you catch them, you're a month behind. By the time you fix it, you're 3 months behind. And so, yeah. Anyways, that would be my advice.
Got it. Thank you. And the next question is from Richard Christian. What's your take on emails that are fully assembled by a series of AI prompts?
So, what is my take on that, Richard? Is sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. It really depends on if you are good at prompting, how natural your emails sound, what your triggers are, etc. My advice is, like I said, we use like, for example, a one line, two line, three line sequence, or basically where we take some trigger and say, hey, look, saw this thing. Awesome. Like, saw this thing, got me thinking. If we could help you do more of that thing, or if we could help streamline that thing, or whatever, would it make sense for a quick chat, right? And so that's like our one or two line, and we one line longer, a little bit longer, then we do a little bit longer. And they definitely are effective. They're very effective to the right audience. And so, like, I know that it will work with companies that are 10 to 50 people. Will that same email work to a CTO of a 500 person company that gets 1,000, 200 cold emails a day? Maybe not, right?
Right.
But they definitely work.
Understood. Next question again from Lucy. How do you truly know your open and CTR when bots skew your data? It's hard to understand our deliverability. I think the simplest answer to this is do not track opens and clicks, Lucy, and your reply rates are your actual measure for success, right? Because if you see your reply rates tank in between, basically a check for you to see what's happening with it. But that could be the whole case, right? Before, because you have opens and clicks might be causing the deliverability issues that you're having. But Christian, over to you, sir.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you hit it nail on the head, right? Is those aren't metrics that we track ever. I think maybe once in a blue moon we'll check open rate, but realistically, those are metrics that were typically used more on the marketing side of things. Now, in this day and age, they are outdated metrics because, yes, everything skews that data. If you send to an iPhone, it skews that data, all kinds of stuff. So we're looking for response rate, right? Reply rate and that type of health. Now, back in the day, it was like, okay, cool. 5 to 8% response is healthy, and 25% positive responses in that 5 to 8% response. So let's say you send 100 emails, you get four replies, and then one of those is a positive reply. That would be a healthy metric, right? 4% reply rate, 25% positive reply rate. Now we're a little bit more forgiving on that. I mean, it's getting, again, harder than it used to be. Now you see some people, right? You see people that post these vanity metrics and things like that, that like it's mind blowing. We have those clients and we have those campaigns too that have a phenomenal offer and say, like, hey, if I gave you $100, would you reply to this email? Like, that the offer is like that sexy, right?
Right.
And we do get those metrics, but more realistically, like probably like a 2% reply rate and a 15 to 20% positive reply rate is good for us for like kind of run-of-the-mill clients. Again, there's exceptions to every rule. There's campaign exceptions to every median. So that's just with a grain of salt.
Understood. And what's a good stack for an SDR? Currently, we have Orem, Smartlead, and HubSpot. Do you have any comments?
Orem, Smartlead, and HubSpot. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that that's fine. Orem, Dialer, Smartlead. It's pretty standard, right? It's I think at least they're using Smartlead and not some of the other ones, but really like, Smartlead, lots of domain infra, good access to data through like Clay plus Lead Magic would be my kind of things that are most important. If you have someone that you can contract for to do N8N automations to be able to push things through to those things, it will get better. And then for dialing, yeah, I think, Orem is fine. Again, we use Trellis and I'm very, very happy with it. They do good number rotation, the price is right, and they do all of these other kind of intangibles. But again, like Lead Magic, we use AirScale as well for mobile number enrichment and Trestle. Those are kind of enrichment things there. So it's on the right track. It's not perfect though.
Understood. Thank you for that. And
Yeah.
next one
I
is,
use also a lot of people use. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think there's a bit of a lag between us, Christine. Over to you, sir. Finish it. So the next,
I was just gonna say, like HubSpot. Go ahead. You go. You go.
go for it, sir. I was just reading the question for you, so you can finish it.
I don't have anything else to say. So this recording will be great as we're both going like this. So what was the next question?
Yeah, the next question is a big one. It's about the triggers when you mentioned. So, what about outbound campaigns that are more focused on finding companies that already know they have a need and a problem for you to solve, like our legal services organization? This is more of an issue with finding triggers, especially the right triggers. Any suggestions on if LinkedIn versus Clay versus etc. are the best at finding those triggers?
Okay, so what about outbound campaigns that are more focused on finding companies that already know they have a need and a problem for you to solve, like our legal services org? This is more of an issue with finding triggers or the right triggers. Any suggestions on if LinkedIn versus Clay, et cetera, is the best at finding those triggers? Yeah, unfortunately, there's no. So if you're building it yourself, so we use some kind of general triggers for the most part, right? A, a little thing about triggers is oftentimes triggers, and this is just being totally transparent. I call it selling the sizzle, not the steak, right? The idea that triggers are the end all be all is it sounds like it. It makes sense. You're like, oh my gosh, that's a trigger. That's like amazing. That person has to reply. That doesn't mean that. Like there was so much hype around so many triggers in the last couple years, like website visitor identification. Everyone thought that was like the massive unlock, right? And like, sure, data, but it's not the end all be all. My job changed be all. And so all of these things to say, you need to go on and use AI to like reverse engineer what triggers you might have, right? And then see if you can build a scraper to that. But triggers come as an addition to rather than your formal like, oh my God, I'm going to spend a month and get someone to hire out and build this amazing trigger and this scraper. Like, don't do that. Figure out what static copy gets responses first, right? Because you could put lots of time. Man, I believed in so many triggers that like I worked my ass off to build, and we finally get the trigger and we run it and like crickets. So again, just to be aware, like, yeah, reverse engineer which triggers you should use, see which ones are feasible, right? Maybe like, again, like new enroll is a good one. Scraping LinkedIn followers of your competitors is a good one, right? Those are a couple of the very easy ones that I would suggest you go after first. For example, like we ran a campaign to an age recently to people that followed a particular CRM because we know it well, and we scraped that CRM's followers, and we were able to reach out to them. And we had lots of good success because the idea was, hey, if they're using the CRM, they would probably work well with us, and we can show them how. So try and think of some of those things. Find the easier triggers to run. Do not put all of your eggs in one basket on a trigger. So because they're not always the end all be all. Some of the ones that people use a lot is like Trigify. So for example, again, if anyone messages me to join the Tuesday Triggers community, the reason I started my community is because Max Mitchum he was our homie at the time, and he released a course, this is like 3 years ago, on how to use N8N. And love Max to death. He started the course and he didn't really teach much. And so we had to start our own place for this basically trigger community where we're like, let's figure out how to do N8N together. And we did. Now everyone uses N8N, but it was all around these triggers. End of the day, look, triggers are not the end all be all. I think there's some good ones. I think like Trigify, there's some weight to that. I think scraping LinkedIn competitors. I think new enroll. Those are the ones that we have the most success with. But the craziest triggers are not always the best triggers.
Makes sense. Thank you for that. And the next question is from Lou. Do you recommend any AI voice agent tool that does cold calling for you?
I wish I did. I wish I did. We've started to test it, but like anything, I mean, again, the AI SDRs are getting better, but they're not there, right? And the AI voice agents are even more in their infancy. I remember when AI SDR came out and I was looking at it and I was like, I'm pretty sure most of them are using Smartlead as a back end. And it's like the Wizard of Oz, like who's behind the curtain. And it's just like a bunch of people using Smartlead behind like an infrastructure, right?
Right.
And so the voice agents, I haven't found success in them. Take that with a grain of salt. I'm not the end all be all, right? There's people that have probably built voice agents that are do well. We hire cold calling teams internationally and train them up to do our cold calling and warm calling for us. The key here, where you can make things better with data, is the cleanliness of and enrichment of data. So again, instead of getting 2 or 3 or 4 connects a day, getting 10 or 15 or 20 connects a day. And that's what we use Lead Magic and some of those tools for enrichment there, because where you get good response and reply rates and answer rates and all of that stuff is in the hard to find data, right? We've all
Right.
picked through Apollo 8 quadrillion times. Love Apollo, but I've picked through it, right? It's like finding these other data sources is where you can find some of those gold nuggets, right?
Right. Understood. The next question is, my team is trying to launch a larger scale campaign to get people to sign up for a free platform online. I have heard that sending links hurt deliverability. What should our CTA be if we can't send the link across?
Can I give you access? Can I set you up with a free account? Can I hook you up? Right? Can I give you a free month? Whatever. Right? Then have a tool like RevReply or a team that's checking responses or subsequence. So when those people come in and they say yes, you get back to them in 2 minutes and say, hey, here's the link, right? Here's a link for a free month. Here's a link for 2 free months, whatever. That would be my suggestion. We've run these campaigns. We've run these campaigns for ourselves for RevReply. You should be running them to figure out product market fit. And don't be totally distraught if they don't work, right? Because you're maybe sending to even personal Gmail addresses. If you're sending to personal Gmail addresses, you might blow everything up. Hopefully, excuse me, you're sending to business addresses. I don't know what your product is, but if it's to person, like you're going to blow stuff up. And don't be distraught if you don't get responses, lots of responses, because it's really hard to sell like, low ticket products via cold email en masse. But be aware that there's also some indicators there. Like if you're sending 500,000 emails and you only get 50 responses or signups, maybe your product market fit or your messaging just are not enticing people to use your product, which is a very real thing that we had to deal with really early on. And then it helped us make pivots in what we were building in terms of our product at RevReply. So again, that's my advice.
Understood. And this question is from Richard. Regarding incentives, what are your strategies for those campaigns that have ethical guidelines and compliance requirements so as to conform with law? For example, financial services have very strict requirements and employee training that has them refrain from accepting gifts or proving gifts to potential clients.
Yeah. So definitely not telling anyone to break the law. That is not my advice. Within those realms, you need to make that choice. Like you need to do the research for yourself, right? So yeah, if you're in the financial services, don't offer people a private jet to come out and see you. But if there is something you can offer, great. How have we've worked with this a couple times in like healthcare, and there were ways that we could do that, but I'm trying to figure out how we were able to do that methodically and thoughtfully. But don't break any rules, right? If you can't do it, don't do it. But like you can do more of the intangible incentives, right? Like, hey, we cracked the code on this amazing thing. Can I share it with you? Hey, we built a framework that can help you do A, B, and C. Can I send it over, right? But yeah, I think in the finance sector, you might be kind of tied to not be able to do any tangible incentives. Oh, you're muted.
There you go. That was my dogs, so I had to mute. So, what tool would you recommend for enriching phone numbers to cold call in parallel to the cold emails, Christine?
Recommend for enriching phone numbers to cold call in parallel to the cold emails. We use Lead Magic and AirScale, and then we use Trestle to like kind of verify the connect potential. So those are the ones that we use primarily. Obviously, Jesse, I love Jesse and support him. But Lead Magic is also just a damn good tool. So we start with Lead Magic, then AirScale is like our kind of extra additional added firepower, and then we run things through Trestle.
Understood. And one last question. How do you do inbound campaigns from an expert perspective? And does it actually work for you?
How do we do inbound campaigns?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's a good question. We don't really do like, I mean, I don't, you mean like if a lead comes inbound and immediately messaging them? I guess maybe I don't fully understand the question, but like I said, we do. So obviously, Smartlead's got things like
Christine?
so. Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, obviously there's like subsequences and things like that. It depends on how, again, what you mean by that. So if you have leads coming into the website, can you push them immediately into a sequence? 100% you should, right? Again, everything is about speed to lead. Just think about the idea of if someone is sitting at a computer and they respond to you, or they go and take an action to look you up and reply to you, right? If they leave, they're gone effectively, right? Like if someone goes and goes, gosh, like I never reply to these, but you know what? I replied to you. And that's why when positives come in, we have a warm calling team and we've got Rev Reply immediately on the case because that's how you manage that speed to lead. You got to get people while they're still there. I searched like top 10 products or I use ChatGPT. And if I'm like or four or five, like the next day, so I can get it done and just make that decision. And if there's like a website where I have to like submit my info and wait for them to qualify me on the back end, and then they reach out and say, "Oh, you've made it. You're big enough for a demo." Like, no, you're out, right? Like, I'm not even going to look at you as an option. So that's just me.
Understood. And Shivam, yes, there is going to be a recording. It will be live tomorrow on Smartlead's YouTube and the Slack community as well. But one last question for you, Christian. What is a benchmark of success for an outreach campaign. You just said 50 replies for 500,000 in outbound is bad.
Yes, that is bad. I can't tell you for each individual product, right? We've got one company that's got an email per positive of 1 to 50 emails, and we send, excuse me, like probably like 3,000 leads a month over to them. That's insane. That's an incredibly rare case. For me, like an email per positive of like 500 is very good. An email per positive of 1,000 to 2,000 is
I think it's my end, but there is some internet issues. But Christian, that's all the questions we had. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for spilling the gold. Thank you so much for the perspective as well. Made a lot of sense. And anything else before we part ways, sir?
Nope, that's it. If y'all need me, check out RevGen Labs. Again, I'm always here to educate. Ping me on LinkedIn if you want to join the Tuesday Triggers community, a place where you can just kind of ask questions and be involved. But outside of that, all good, my man. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time, Christian. One of many. See you soon on the next session. And folks, Smart Agent is also live. Check it out, test it out, give us feedback. That's how we build. And as you all know, three consistent things in life: death, taxes, and office hours every Thursday. I'll see you all on the next one. Ciao.
Nice, man. I love that.
See you guys. Bye bye. Thanks, Christian.
Cheers, bud.